Hey guys, it's Rodney, and today we're going to do another quick garden walk around. It is mid-April, so we're going to see what is blooming and what's done well. We have had a few of our wonderful Texas storms, one of those filled with hail.
Those are huge over there. Yeah, these are the size of basins.
So, our wonderful root beer plants that were growing wonderfully are now torn to shreds because the hailstorm was that bad. The Crossvine is going through another kind of second set of blooms as we go into our second spring here. Hopefully that will continue as long as it doesn't get too hot too quick. Anacacho Orchid has taken root. She's doing a lot better. I think we've got some dead stuff in there we do need to prune out though, but she's hanging in there. She's doing all right. We did add, like a week and a half ago now, we added the coral honeysuckle. It's gonna grow up on this side of the shower now, so we've got two different types of blooms. The elephant ears are starting to come up, but we're still missing two of them. We're not sure if they're gonna make it or not. The other location here, these guys are grown up pretty well. Again, also got destroyed by the hail. Anything broadleaf is really gonna take a hit on that. Our Henry duelbergs though are starting to bloom, and this guy's getting a little bit more shade than the other, which we'll see in a minute. The drift rose is of course covered in blooms, looks gorgeous every year. Gets a lot of extra water from the outdoor shower too, which is nice. And so do the grasses, which those guys are starting to fill in slowly here. But that's the other Henry duelberg, sage or salvia there, looking awesome, usually covered in bees and butterflies. Salvia greggii in the autumn red is blooming right now too. Both of the twist leaf yuccas have both started to shoot a bloom spike, and they look like they're going to be covered in blooms this year, so that'll be really pretty to see. This guy just as well, also going to be covered in blooms. Really cool thing about the twist leaf yucca is it's pollinated by a moth at nighttime. Jake's poor Bougainvillea, you know, she's hanging in there. Oh, she's starting to bloom. She needs it a lot hotter than it is though. She's trying, she's doing her best over here. But she needs a haircut too, it looks like. We had a mystery plant pop up, and I have decided it is the native milkweed. That is what I've determined that guy is, but we're gonna see in a couple of weeks to see how accurate I actually am. Peach tree is growing in nice. We do have a couple of fruits. This is the first year of fruits, so we'll see how well she actually does. She's looking a little chlorotic though. She might need some extra food. We have a broken branch probably from the hail. Hailstorms suck for plants, poor things. We did add in a Greg's mist flower. Great also for butterflies, so hopefully that pairs well with some of the salvias, and it does get a little more shade in the hot afternoon, so it gets a little more filtered light, so I'm hoping that she does really well in the summertime. I always forget what this cactus is called. It's sharp as hell, but it's beautiful, and it's starting to bloom. It's got like 3 or 4 buds on it. Nope, that's a lie. There's almost like a dozen of them in there, but it's got that really cute kind of fuchsia looking flower on it. She's hanging in there. She's, you know, she's trying to live her best life over here. But it's got 1, 2, 3 new leaves. Hopefully hangs in there. Hopefully she'll fill out. And of course the frog fruit, just also living its best life. That should start blooming some more here soon. I think she's dead. I think the poor agarita that we tried to transplant after it being like, I don't know, 10 years old, I don't think the agarita took well. Flame acanthus will start blooming soon too, and it's really filled out this year compared to last year, almost doubling in size. Mountain laurels, unfortunately, when they're young, they're really susceptible of getting too wet and too dry, so they kind of get a fungal root issue going on. And this little guy didn't have super great roots to begin with. I'm still worried about her. She don't look good. Doesn't have any new growth, and so unfortunately, because they are slow growers, their death is also really slow, so it's always really hard to catch it in time. So we'll see how well she does over the next couple weeks. Hopefully it dries out. I think in the last video we had just planted the asparagus fern in the Wally pocket, and obviously she is thriving. It's put on like almost 2 foot of growth, I guess. But I'm hoping that it can just kind of fill up this section of wall so you kind of have this green backdrop to all of the root beer plants and the Japanese maples in this little shade bed that we have here. Our little herb pot's doing well, but our poor Basil took a beating from the hail also. But she's trying. I should probably rotate her because she looks like she's reaching for the sun. But the oregano and the thyme and stuff is growing in really well in here too. So these guys are going to fill out just fine. Sedge Wall here is doing fairly well, but I have noticed that the guys on the inside here, a little further under the cover, are growing much slower. They are still growing. There's some dieback because I let them get a little dry. I didn't realize that these stay much drier than these guys out here. So when it does rain, they're not getting the moisture. So I do have to water them a little bit more than the guys on the outside edge here. And then our Japonica is, she's doing her best. We do have like 3 of the main trunks here are doing well. I think I'm gonna have to take this cluster out, which means that I'll probably take it out and cut away at this particular root base here, just so it doesn't rot and cause any fungal issues. Yeah, see, it's all soft and rotting. We'll have to cut that out, but these guys are all growing in pretty well. Star Jasmine growing in pretty well. It's put on about 2 new sets of leaves. So hopefully, they're a little slower grower because they are a woody vine, but hopefully we can get that to fill up this wall again. So in the front courtyard, the Ligularia is finally filling in. We really weren't sure if it was going to make it or not. However, the hail has torn apart most of the leaves. There's literally only like this one leaf with just the smallest damage, but most of the leaves are shredded. So I do worry that it's going to abort a lot of those, but hopefully these ones on the inside were fairly well protected and can grow. But you can see, again, the root beer plant, a bunch of hail damage again, of course. But the purple oxalis is filling in really nicely, so I'm really excited about that because that's a nice little pop of color here in the shade. And then our Staghorn is finally putting on some new growth for the spring. She lives inside all winter, so the poor thing doesn't get much light other than a grow light, which is not, it's not perfect, but it gives it something. But yeah, it's finally putting on some new growth. You can also see the new pad growth here underneath. So it should fill out and start looking like a giant sea urchin again here pretty quick. I just cleaned this plant up from the last hailstorm, and now all of the leaves on this poor peace lily are shredded again. No peace for the peace lily. At the entryway we have our other crossvine, but it is finally touching the top here on the pergola, so I'm hoping that we can get some better training going now that it's up there, because the wind kept knocking them down and blowing them around. But now that it's actually reaching, hopefully this guy can start to fill in on the top side, because it's also going to get a lot more light up there. In the pots with the Boxwoods, we've got some silver pony's foot that we planted last spring. Little 4-inch guys, but the winter did quite a bit of damage to them. But there is at least some growth happening. And then this guy's got a little bit of growth tucked in there. They really do need a lot more sunlight than what they get here. So they already grow a little spindly and a little thin, but hopefully with the brighter summer sun as it comes across the driveway, they'll get some of that hot afternoon sun, which they really like, and hopefully will fill in soon. And in this garden bed, this is the garden bed that Jake took the lawnmower to this year. But they are all filling in nicely. This is the Mexican petunia or the Ruella, and then this is more the Mexican honeysuckle. Since the last video, they have grown, about the 12 inches of growth that we see here, because I think in the last video, they were just barely starting to sprout. Their spring growth looks really good. And our Mailbox Planter, she looks cute. The Yucca's starting to bloom. Actually, both the Yuccas are starting to bloom spike on them slowly. And then we did replace this little stone crop sedum guy. The goal is let this guy kind of trail over the edge. But we gotta plant some more, because what did we have up here before? We had some silver pony's foot, and then we also had the Verbena, the native Verbena, and it unfortunately died all the way back. This container doesn't get regular irrigation, so the roots got really dry in the winter when it got cold. So I think it just got a little too cold for the verbena. In the back corner of our yard, it's kind of a shady area underneath the ash in this wonderful walnut tree that's, you know, hanging in there. But it's an area that we don't really use, and so what we've decided to do is just let it grow kind of like a little native meadowy kind of prairie moment. And I've put out over the last couple of years just some native like shade wildflower style packets and threw them in here, so we'll kind of see what everything does. But it's kind of fun to have a little native space like this. You get a little extra wildlife. The birds and the bees love it. The birds hang out here a lot. It's kind of a fun thing to talk about. It creates its own little ecosystem in this corner, and again, we don't use it, so why mow more lawn? That's it for today, guys. A garden tour in our yard could just, you know, it could last for hours, but that's it for today. Comment below if you guys have any questions on any of the plants, or if you guys just have any plant questions in general. I'll be happy to answer them, and then we'll probably do another one in about a month or so.